Welcome back to the Lawkward Chronicles. My name is Larissa and today we are going over my January wrap-up. I read 9 books in January. 9. That is crazy to me. That is insane. That was really exciting for me. I did do a lot of like book and audiobook and then combination of the two. That helped because I was also commuting so far to work because I was house sitting, and I had some cozy nights with the pups and the pup and the kitties. So we just read a lot. I'm just so happy. I love reading so much. Some of these I'm like, I can't even believe that was this month that I read, well, last month that I read all these. Let's get right into it. We have 9 books to discuss. Oh my goodness. The first book that I read in January was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I am currently going through Colleen Hoover's whole catalog, and It Starts With Us I wanted to read at the start of the year because of who I am as a person. And this one is following Lily and Atlas, and it's the sequel to It Ends With Us. I won't really get into it because I don't want spoilers or anything, but it is dual POV, which we love between Lily and Atlas. Second chance romance, and then some co-parenting stuff, and trigger warnings, especially with It Ends With Us, is a lot of domestic violence. So just so you are aware of that going into it, and this is just kind of following that as well. I highly enjoyed the romance aspect. Atlas is just so supportive and just a really good human, and I just love it. And It Ends With Us was such a traumatic book, and this one was supposed to be more of like a marshmallow, and it was like a toasty marshmallow. So still some dealing with trauma and stuff, but definitely what was needed. And I'm so happy that Colleen decided to write the sequel to this so we could get their story. So good job everyone on TikTok who pressured her into it, because I love that we have this now and can be happy. The second book that I read this month was A Touch of Ruin, which is the sequel to A Touch of Darkness, which is a Hades and Persephone's retelling by Scarlett St. Clair. And with this one, again, I won't get into it since it is a sequel. We are following Hades and Persephone in a present day time, so it's still all the Greek mythology, all the gods and goddesses and all of that jazz, but in a more modern day setting. And Persephone is a journalist, and she is trying to uncover the truth and expose and do justice. I really enjoyed the first one. A lot of people didn't like her in the first one just because they felt that she was a little bit annoying. In the second one, I thought she was insufferable. I almost had to DNF the book because I wasn't ever going to, but like I thought about it, or like taking some time away from it, because the first one I devoured so quickly. But this second one, Persephone was so annoying, like aggressively annoying. There is a few parts where, so she's working for a newspaper. Sorry, my hair is like doing its own thing right now. She works for a newspaper, and her boss, the way she talks to her boss, she should have been instantly fired. It is so disrespectful in a workplace situation, and her boss is so supportive of her and gives her so much leeway, and she was horrible to him. Absolutely unprofessional. And considering she's just out of college in this book, a new reporter acting the way she does, absolute nonsense. Absolute like grounds for firing for how disrespectful she was. She was just super pretentious in this book, and continually people would tell her not to do something, and then she would go ahead and do it, and then consequences would be had, and she would continually jump to conclusions, and it's this whole thing. Oh man. So I'm hoping the third one is much better, because the second one I did not like her. And I love Persephone and I love Hades and I love their relationship in the regular Greek mythology. They're my favorite Greek couple. But yeah, in this one, she was just, did not enjoy, did not. But I will continue with the series, but just be wary of that. It's also an open door romance. Our third book was the book club pick of January, which is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And this is kind of a grumpy sunshine, small town romance. And the added twist to this is Archer can't speak. So Bree heads to this small town to escape some trauma that she had back in the city, comes across Archer, and everybody in the town is super standoffish and pretty much is like, oh, doesn't care and is grumpy and blah, blah, blah. And then she weasels her way in there and it's lovely. And Archer is such a marshmallow. He's so naive and inexperienced in a lot of things, and he's been so secluded at his house for so long. And you find out the trauma that both Bree and Archer have been through, which led them to how they respond. It is dual POV. And again, like I said, small town romance. There's a lot of PTSD going on, grumpy sunshine. Just a delightful read, but also like suspenseful. It's such a happy, lovely read, but there is some suspense and like some big things that happen and big reveals. But I absolutely adored this, and Archer is added to my book boyfriend collection. The next book that I read was The Ex Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. So this is fake dating, but fake exes in a radio show, and it's forced proximity, enemies to lovers in the workplace, which is just fun. It's a good time. Both Shay and Dominic work at a radio station, and the radio station is not doing well. They have seen a decrease in numbers in their show, so they're trying to revamp their material or have some different shows to collect an audience. And Shay mentions like, oh, why don't we have a dating show? Or yeah, a dating show, but like, let's have it be exes. And they went through with it and selected Dominic and Shay to do this, and they had to pretend to be fake exes. And just a fun little romance. They touch on the gender inequality briefly between women working in radio as well, like comparatively to men, and how men are more favored in radio, at least in this instance. And then they briefly, and they should have went further with it, they briefly touch on the different ethnic representations. They mention it, and they don't really go too much more into it, which was a shame because Dominic is an Asian American and there could have been more discussion with it, is all I'm trying to say. Shay has been in this position since college, and she is unsure if it's something that she wants to continue to do and has never really thought about doing anything else, but is unsure of what she wants to do with her life and figuring that out as well, which I felt was very relatable. The next book that I read was Eat It by Mike Vacanti and Jordan Sayat. I love these two. They are two of my favorite fitness people, and Mike is actually who introduced me to macro-based calorie counting. They're just so knowledgeable, and this is pretty much it's very short too, a comprehensive guide into how to lose weight, maintain weight, whatever, mainly lose weight and have like a healthier relationship with food. And they give some exercises in the back. They state specifically this is for people who are the normal people, the common people that do not have a diagnosed underlying medical condition such as like thyroid issues or more women's health issues that cause weight gain or like any of those underlying or those conditions. So this is for your everyday Joe and Jane on how to lose weight and make it easy, make it sustainable, which is the most important part. It's not a fad diet. I really respect these two, and they have taught me so much over the years. Them and Mike Matthews are my three go-to guys for just kind of generalized fitness and nutrition stuff. So I enjoy them. They have a no BS approach, which I personally love. Sometimes it does seem combative, but that's just their personality. Oh, they were also the trainers to Gary Vee, or Gary Vaynerchuk, if you know him. And yeah, I really enjoyed them. I listen to their podcast every week. They're just funny guys. They're funny. And Mike is from Bloomington, Minnesota, which is where I went to grad school. So it's nice to have that connection. The next book that I read was The Lincoln Highway, and I unfortunately do not have that with me. I lent it to my friend who I knew would love this book. It is by Immortals, and it was a book of the month pick, and it's a chunker. I listened to the audiobook as well as read the physical book, and I loved doing that. I thought that was so much fun to like integrate that, and like the cast of the audiobook was delightful, and it was such a fun read. So this book is very interesting in the fact that it is multiple POVs, but also switching between third and first person with depending upon who the POV is. Emmett has been in a work camp, so think holes, for a crime that he committed, and he is being released, especially a little early after his father died, so he can go collect his brother. And the bank has taken his house, so they are planning on moving to somewhere else, and he's going to pick up his brother, who is 8 or so, I think, and they're going to go and do their thing. But when the warden drops him off, 2 guys that he was in there with snuck out with them. They were in the back of the trunk of the police car, and now they have a quest of their own. So Emmett and Billy were planning on going to Texas or California, whereas Duchess and Wooly want to go to New York to get Wooly's inheritance. And Sally is from Nebraska as well, and she has grown up with Emmett and Billy and has a crush on Emmett. And Emmett is a boy who doesn't understand things. Anyway, it's a road trip. And like I said, multiple POVs with switching between first and third person, a bunch of underdog situations, like everybody's an underdog in this situation, historical fiction, so it takes place in the 50s, 40s, 30s, sometime. So that was fun. I just really enjoyed it. Like I said, the audiobook had a wonderful cast. Sally was my favorite. I'm really sad we didn't get more chapters from her, but every chapter that she did, was amazing. She was just so funny and just so blunt, and because of the time period, like women had less rights and had to go and find a man kind of thing, and she was just like, I want to be a strong independent woman kind of vibe. Just the twists and turns that were taken in this book were so enjoyable. They were so fun. Each of the boys were just so interesting, and the people that they met along the way was great. And it just gives you so much hope. But I kind of wish we would have gotten like another couple chapters, because I just felt like it was incomplete. However, the way it ended was so crazy, so interesting. What a way to end a book. It was just kind of startling how it ended. I don't know. There's some mental health issues too, so just be cautious. Actually, if there are any trigger warnings, please look them up beforehand. The next book that I read was an audiobook by Tom Daly, and it's coming up from air. And if that sounds familiar, he is the British Olympic diver that has competed for years and years and years. And I love him. Like, I love how he started knitting. And he knit his own cardigan at the last Olympics, and I just thought that was just so fun. And it goes through more of like the mental health aspects that he went through growing up and being at that level of competition, as well as having some really big moments impact his life, like the passing of his father before the 2018 Olympics. And I believe he identifies as bisexual. It also goes through the relationship that he has with his now husband and how they went through their journey of having a child and finding a surrogate, and who they went through, because his husband is a producer in the United States, and obviously Tom is in England, And so it just kind of goes through their relationship as well, and the blossoming of it and all of that, as well as like it goes through the changes and aging in elite athletes and nutrition and like all of the nitpicking of his body image, whether he was heavy at one point, and his coaches would point that out. It was a lot of body dysmorphia as well as some eating disorders. So be cautious of that. I really did enjoy it, and he narrates it, which I love. And it was just kind of fun to see the Olympics issues as well as the COVID, how the Olympics proceeded in COVID and like what changed, because he had been through 3 other Olympics prior to that. So having that change is a big deal. I highly enjoyed it. So I love Tom. I want to be his bestie. He's just adorable. The next book that I read was The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the prequel to the Throne of Glass series. It is 5 novellas bound up into 1 copy, and it gives us insight into Celaena Sardathian's, I think, start of her. Well, she was already an assassin, but it kind of gives a little bit background of how I think she'll be proceeding and what her motivations are as an assassin who has broken away from the guild in Arobyn's clutches, if you will, who was her assassin lord. It gives us an insight of what her motivations are, and it picks up where I believe. I haven't read Throne of Glass yet. I enjoyed this. Yes, I did enjoy this, and there is much debate about what book to start with, whether you start with Throne of Glass or whether you start with The Assassin's Blade. Without any knowledge, I kind of wish I would have started with Throne of Glass. I don't feel as attached to her, and this would have been a delightful thing to read after reading Throne of Glass, just to kind of gauge. I felt like I was just jumping in without knowing really anything, because I like to go into books blind, so I don't really do any research because I don't want to get any spoilers. So I wish I would have read Throne of Glass as of right now first. But I did enjoy this all the same. I also listened to part of it on audiobook, which was enjoyable. The narrator did a great job. I really enjoy Celaena's character in the fact that she is such a deadly assassin who is to be feared and revered. But she also loves her femininity. She loves very expensive like jewels and clothes. And there was this really awkward part where she talked about her underwear and undergarments for so long, and like so many mentions of it in each paragraph, like the word undergarment. It was kind of weird. It was, bleh, I don't know. Just the fact that she brought it up so much was strange to me. But she loves cosmetics and like makeup and everything, so she is very much expresses her femininity, but it's also so wonderful that she is so strong and such a revered assassin, because we can be both. The last book that I read was Spare by Prince Harry, and I listened to it via audiobook. And this is Prince Harry's journey of growing up as a royal and the challenges that ensued with that, especially from the paparazzi. As we know, Princess Diana was hounded, and the cause of her death was essentially being chased by paparazzi, and how terrible they are, and how the press just takes advantage and doesn't believe that, people are real, like especially royals and famous people. They just view them in a fishbowl. Harry's emphasis is he's always known as the spare, the heir and the spare. So Prince William is the heir and Harry is the spare. He discusses forging his own path, especially while going into the army and his journeys there. But again, like the press kind of screwed him over and gave away his location, so he's had to be pulled from multiple missions due to that. It also gets into his past relationships and how the press has sabotaged those for him, as well as his relationship with Meghan Markle, and essentially why they broke away from the royal family and had them fleeing away from there to save themselves. It's interesting just because we know that the royal family, and I feel like it's a very common thing in English or British folks is how very like cold they can be and very standoffish and not expressive of their emotions. Like it's a very running joke about their society. It's very sad, a lot of the things that he's had to go through, especially at starting as a baby, like when, even before he, like as soon as he was in the womb, you know, and just how haunting and a constant that Princess Diana has on him and the effect that she still has on the boys, William and Harry. Anyway, it was really fascinating to read because the press got a lot of things wrong and incorrect, especially the relationships between Harry and William, as well as like and Kate and Meghan. Like everything was, you know, incorrect and taken to extremes or miscommunicated or just, yeah, false. So can't believe the press over there apparently, or anywhere. Those are the 9 books that I read those are the 9 books I read in January. That's what I'm trying to say. And these are the physical ones. So a good mix of physical, audio, and digital, and using the library. We love that for me. If you like these wrap-ups or any other bookish content, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any bookish content or anything else. And remember to respect others, respect yourself, and do something amazing with your day. Thanks. Bye.